Putting the swing arm together looked like a very simple subassembly, but it actually turned into an opportunity to add some extra details and do a little bit of re-engineering as well. First item to address was the final drive housing, which is molded hollow on the back side. This is still visible through the wheel when viewed from the right side of the model, so I wanted to close it in. After matching up the diameter of the final drive housing using a circle template, the cover for the final drive housing was laid out on a piece of 10/1000 of an inch thick styrene sheet, with the outside of the circle and the center being marked. Drill the center of the circle to fit the cast-in pin on the final drive housing, and cut the circle itself slightly oversize, then glue in place. Remove the excess material, sand the styrene sheet smooth, and the final drive housing looks more realistic. All that's left to do here is clean up the ejector pin marks. A similar situation exists on the other side of the swing arm, with the brake caliper being nicely molded on the outside, but no representation of the inner set of brake pads. The inside of the brake caliper is largely hidden on the finished model, although it's not completely invisible. I believe that the main reason for the inner set of brake pads not being molded is the assembly sequence of the kit as laid out in the instructions. Following the kit instructions, tire, wheel, and rotor are assembled, and then the swing arm halves are glued together, trapping the wheel in between them on the molded-in plastic pins. I used a small piece of 30/1000 of an inch thick by 1/4 inch wide styrene strip to represent the inside set of brake pads. This meant that the swing arm and wheel could no longer be assembled per the instructions, which is where the re-engineering came into play. After cutting off the molded-on plastic pin, a hole was drilled through the swing arm at the axle location for a 30/1000 steel wire axle. To fit this diameter of wire, a number 67 or 032 diameter hole was used. When drilling parts like this, I find it's best to start on one side, drill partway through, then finish drilling the hole from the opposite side. This lessens the possibility of the drill tracking off and coming out on the other side in the wrong location. Do the same thing on the opposite side of the swing arm, starting from the outside of the final drive housing, drilling partway through, and drilling through from the opposite side of the final drive housing to complete the drilled hole. As designed, the kit does provide a D-shaped pin with corresponding notch on the opposite piece to locate the parts, but you're still relying on a fairly weak glue joint. The next piece of re-engineering involved reinforcing the swing arm joint, which I did by using a piece of aluminum tube, 3/16 of an inch outside diameter, which was a perfect fit on the inside to slide over the kit swing arm halves. To ensure proper alignment and to keep the swing arm square, I used 032 diameter brass wire through the axle holes, and then assembled the swing arm halves, initially with solvent cement, and then reinforcing the joint with thin CA glue. The last step is modifying the wheels for aluminum tube bushings to ensure a proper fit on the wire axle. I started by drilling out the center of the wheel, 3/32 inch diameter, and then did the same with the brake rotor. I'm keeping these parts separate for now so they can be properly painted and glued together at final assembly. K&S tubing is designed so that one piece telescopes nicely inside the other, and the smallest diameter tubing, 1/16, shown on the left, is a good fit over the 30/1000 diameter wire axle. The two sections of tube were assembled and installed in the wheel, with the extra projection being where the rotor will be glued on later. And here the rotor is set in place, with the axle also installed. Installation of the wheel will actually be just like it's done on a real bike, with the wheel, tire, and rotor being hoisted into place, and then the axle slid through. Viewed from this side, the final drive unit looks more like a complete assembly and less like a hollow plastic kit part. One detail that will be added after final assembly will be bolt head castings glued on either side of the swing arm to represent fasteners and also trap the steel axle in place. With frame, engine, and swing arm temporarily assembled, you can see that the slight increase in diameter caused by using aluminum tube to reinforce the swing arm connection doesn't present any clearance issues. Thanks for watching this installment. Next one will be a surprise because at this point I haven't decided which part of the bike I'm going to work on next.